Racist police officer kicks pregnant black woman, and the next day her husband makes him regret it. If you want to know how this story ends, watch until the end. It was 9:45 p.m. when Amara Johnson was walking home after a long day working at the downtown cafe. At 29 years old, with a 6-month pregnancy, she was accustomed to the city's pace. She knew that no matter how exhausting her job was, it was a sacrifice to ensure a good future for her baby, whom she and her husband were eagerly awaiting. However, that night her life would change forever. As she crossed a dark corner near her neighborhood, a patrol car stopped abruptly beside her. Amara felt a sharp pang of fear when she saw the officer step out of the vehicle. She instantly recognized him. Officer Darren Cole, a man well known in the community for his particularly harsh treatment of minorities. Amara lowered her gaze and tried to remain calm, hoping not to have any trouble. "What are you doing walking around here at this hour?" Cole snapped, his tone full of contempt. Before Amara could respond, he pushed her against the wall, claiming she was suspicious and needed to search her belongings. Amara tried to explain that she was just heading home and only had her work bag, but Cole, ignoring her protests, grabbed her roughly and shoved her again. In the midst of the struggle, a blow to Amara's abdomen made her scream in pain. She felt a sharp stab in her belly and, terrified, tried to protect her stomach, pleading with the officer to stop. But Cole didn't relent until another passerby, witnessing the situation from a distance, came closer and yelled at Cole to stop. Cole released Amara with a contemptuous look and left before anyone else intervened. Trembling, Amara collapsed to the ground, holding her belly as tears streamed down her cheeks. She was rushed to the hospital by the witness who had helped her, but the doctors could do nothing. The assault had caused irreversible damage. Amara's baby had died. The news of the loss devastated Amara and her husband, Samuel. It was a cruel blow, and amidst their grief, Samuel felt an uncontrollable rage rise in his chest. His wife had been attacked, their child had died, and the man responsible was still free. Samuel knew that the system rarely punished officers like Cole, and every time he thought about that, his anger grew like an unstoppable fire. Samuel had always been a calm, peaceful person, but the pain of the loss transformed him. That night, while holding Amara in his arms, he promised her he would find a way to get justice, to make Darren Cole feel the weight of his actions. The next day, Samuel began investigating Cole's whereabouts. He found that the officer often visited a local bar after his shift. That night, Samuel waited patiently outside until he saw Cole leave, slightly drunk, heading to his car without noticing Samuel following him. However, Samuel didn't have a clear plan. He only knew he had to confront him. But as he faced Cole, a new idea began to form in his mind. Instead of resorting to violence, he decided to do something smarter. His plan required patience, but he knew Cole would pay. Samuel started gathering information about Cole. He followed him on social media, learned his routines, and even got access to his email. For weeks, he observed every move Cole made and began collecting evidence of his misconduct and other instances of abuse that had been covered up. With the help of a lawyer friend, Samuel filed a detailed complaint, supported by strong evidence. But he didn't stop there. He also published all the information online, revealing to the community and the media what Cole had done. The case caused an immediate uproar. Cole was suspended while authorities investigated the accusations. However, for Samuel, this wasn't enough. Legal justice was important, but he wanted more. Over time, Cole began to feel the pressure of public scrutiny and shame. His life fell apart. He lost his job, his friends abandoned him, and his family rejected him. Cornered and completely alone, Cole tried to contact Samuel. He wanted to apologize and express his remorse. For some reason, the act of regret didn't bring him peace. Samuel agreed to meet him, but made it clear that he didn't expect forgiveness. During their meeting, Samuel said something Cole would never forget. "I can't give you forgiveness, and you won't find it in justice either. You took everything from me because you chose to take what I loved most. Now, that burden is yours. I will grieve, but you will live with yours every day, unable to forget." With those words, Samuel walked away, leaving Cole engulfed in a pit of regret and guilt from which he could never escape. Darren Cole returned to his small, ruined apartment, overwhelmed by Samuel's words. He had spent his whole life believing that his treatment of people of color was backed by unquestionable authority. But now, facing Samuel's gaze and understanding the irreversible pain he had caused, he felt an emptiness he had never experienced before. He tried to drown his regret in alcohol, but even the liquor couldn't ease the weight of his thoughts. In his mind, the image of Amara crying and Samuel demanding justice played over and over like a loop he couldn't stop. Cole was officially dismissed from the police force after the investigation revealed multiple instances of abuse and negligence over the years. Several co-workers distanced themselves from him, and some even testified against him to avoid being involved in the scandal. In the community, he became the target of scorn and condemnation. People avoided him, and the friends who had once respected him now ignored him. Every night, Darren woke up sweating, haunted by nightmares in which he relived the moment he struck Amara. He dreamed of her baby, an innocent face, pointing at him from afar. He tried to scream, to apologize, but his voice was drowned out by the silence of the darkness. It was during these nightmares that he began to realize something. Guilt wasn't just a burden. It was also a mirror that forced him to see the monstrosity of his actions. But although his remorse grew, the damage had already been done, and no one could bring Samuel and Amara's baby back. A month after their meeting, Samuel and Amara received a letter. It was from Cole. At first, Samuel thought about destroying it without reading it. But Amara, despite her pain, asked him to read it. The letter said, "Dear Amara and Samuel, I don't know if I have the right to write to you, let alone ask you to read this. There are no words that can justify what I did, and I understand that nothing I say will change the damage I've caused. I know you will hate me forever, and I don't blame you. But I need you to know that since that night, my life has become an endless nightmare. I've lost everything, including the dignity I thought I had. At first, I thought this was vengeance, that you were being cruel. But little by little, I understood that true justice is not just punishment, but a reflection of the harm one causes. Your baby should be here, alive, waiting to be born in a few months. But I, blinded by my own prejudices and hatred, destroyed that future. I don't expect your forgiveness, or even your understanding. I only want you to know that I've decided to surrender in an act of true justice. I will go to court with my confession, with all the details and evidence that incriminate me, not only in this case, but in every wrongful act I've committed as a law officer. I am ready to accept whatever punishment I deserve. Perhaps in some way, I will find some peace in this. I hope that someday you can find some comfort. I am sorry for stealing the most precious thing from your lives. Sincerely, Darren Cole." Samuel and Amara remained silent after reading the letter. The pain was still deep, and their anger flared every time they remembered the night that took their baby. But there was something in Cole's words that, though they offered no relief, seemed sincere. A few weeks later, Cole's trial took place. He had voluntarily surrendered and gave a detailed statement of each of his abuses and his attack on Amara. His confessions shocked the community, revealing a pattern of violence that had gone unnoticed and was finally exposed thanks to Samuel's efforts. During the trial, Cole looked Samuel and Amara in the eyes. He didn't say anything, but his eyes reflected the despair of someone who knew he had destroyed lives. He was sentenced to a long prison term, and with that, a dark chapter in Samuel and Amara's lives closed. The couple continued their grief, but little by little, they found new ways to cope with the pain through mutual support and their community. They decided to create an organization in memory of their baby, with the purpose of protecting the rights of minorities and offering help to those who had been victims of abuse of power. The organization, named La Voz de Amber, became a symbol of hope for others who had suffered at the hands of those society trusted. Amara and Samuel dedicated their days to building a space for support and education, promoting changes in how the police related to the community and demanding fair and respectful treatment for all. Over time, La Voz de Amber became known across the country and helped influence local policies to implement mandatory human rights and empathy training in police academies. Years later, Samuel received a call he had been expecting. It was from the prison director where Cole was serving his sentence. Darren had spent the last few years working in rehabilitation programs within the prison system, and his attitude had changed significantly. He had even begun to collaborate in education workshops for other inmates, teaching them to recognize prejudice and empathy. What was even more surprising was that he had asked to donate all of his savings to Samuel and Amara's organization. Samuel was thoughtful after the call. The wound in his heart hadn't healed, but he understood that perhaps on some level, Cole had found a kind of redemption. It wasn't the perfect ending, nor the one he would have wanted, but it was a sign that change, though slow and painful, could happen. With a sigh, Samuel looked up at the sky, remembering their lost son, and felt an unexpected peace. They had gone through a storm, but in the end, they had transformed the pain into something that transcended hatred and vengeance, something that would remind the world that while the past couldn't be changed, the future could still be written with hope.